Hi, and welcome to See You There, your connection to campus life and issues at the U of I. I'm Jane Holmes.
And I'm Megan Ng.
And with us, we have 3 members of university organizations who are sponsoring programs on this campus. And next to Megan, we have Vickie Howie, who is from the University Police, and who is the investigator for sexual assaults at the University Police. We have Pat Moray from the Office of Women's Programs, and Bob Weckback, who is a member of Men Against Sexual Assault. And thank you for coming. First, can you talk about how this month began? Is this the first National Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the nation? Is this something new that has started? We'll start with Pat.
Well, officially, last year, April was designated as National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. But unofficially, we have been designating months, usually October, as an awareness month around issues like this for many years. In this community, probably about 20 years.
All right, and so you have a number of groups working with you to have lectures and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about things that we have in store for us in the next couple of weeks?
Sure. Do you want to start?
Well, you might be better with the general schedule for the month, but just in terms of Men Against Sexual Violence, we have 3 things in the works so far. We're going to, first off, we're going to have a street theater performed at noon on the quad this Monday, and we have different people who are going to act out some skits to try and heighten awareness and make people understand what a rape type situation might be, you know, what kind of attitudes and social interactions might lead to rape. So that's a street theater at noon. And then Tuesday evening, we're going to, during our normal meeting time, which is 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, we're going to gather over at the YWC at YMCA, and then we're going to go over to O'Malley's Bar, because that's going to be one of our probably longer term campaigns. What they do at O'Malley's is they have a photograph booth there, and if a woman is willing to go inside the photograph booth and bare her chest, take the picture up to the bar, she gets a free case of brew. And so, you know, we're thinking, what does that really mean? You know, to have that kind of thing go on at a bar, you know, you can imagine what kind of, you know, jokes and pressures would be on women. Say it like at 12:45 when the play is going to close at 1 or something. I can imagine, you know, this contributing to a really uncomfortable and dangerous type of atmosphere, fostering some really bad attitudes, you know, about what you're supposed to be thinking or acting like.
Well, is this legal?
In the evening. Actually, we don't really know yet. I don't really know of any laws that would make it illegal. Maybe somebody else could help on that. But we don't really think that we want to show how it's wrong, even if it is legal. I mean, a lot of the issues that we want to deal with are you know, far broader than just what's legal or not. Because
would all 3 of you agree that the problem on campus is in attitudes? Because or would you agree that this is the sexual assault is, well, it's mainly focused on students? It's acquaintance rape on this campus. Maybe you could tell us something about that.
Fortunately, I guess, if there can be such a thing, the sexual assaults that the University Police are dealing with since the last couple years on university property have been acquaintance sexual assaults. I believe we've had about 9 come to our attention, but only 2 of the victims have made official police reports.
So these are with people who know each other?
These are people who know each other. They may have been dates, or they may have just been someone that they met at a bar and the guy offered to walk them home or take them home.
Sure. Right. And that kind of thing happens often in a bar setting.
Right.
You know, when people aren't sure about, you know, what is okay to do and what is not okay.
Right.
I think it's also interesting that your group, Men Against Sexual Violence, are going to be the protesters, because I think it gives a positive image of men saying this is not okay. Can you talk about how you see your role in educating men as well as women, but how you think that's unique, kind of a unique angle that you might have?
Well, I mean, one of the things is just how I think that we can talk to men in a way that they have shown they won't listen to women for time and time again. Often, certain like a women's rights organization or a feminist organization gets thought of in a certain way by men that makes them kind of reject it or think that it doesn't involve them or that it can't speak to them in any way. And we want to be men who are coming at this issue from a similar angle as perhaps a feminist organization or something like that would, except that we can speak to men, right? And because it just seems like for too long the message has already been there. In terms of women speaking out, it's nothing new to have women speaking out, because that's been, probably ever since this kind of thing has happened, there have been women speaking out against it. But so we'll see if we can speak to men in particular. But the thing on Tuesday night is going to be, hopefully we'll have other groups helping us,
Sure.
And there will be men and women out there.
So Pat, can you talk about what your office does to address these issues? I know women's programs deals not only with sexual assault, but like some kind of discrimination in hiring and I believe tenure for professors. I mean, do you deal in that kind of thing?
Actually, that's a different office.
Is it? Oh, okay.
That is part of the Dean of Students' responsibilities. Our office coordinates, in addition to other types of women's programs, we coordinate the Campus Acquaintance Rape Education Program. And kind of dovetailing what Bob has said, one of the things that this university has recognized in hiring me as the coordinator of this program is that we have been talking with women for centuries about what to do or not do regarding rape. And that's okay, but that has not stopped rape from happening. And it's time to educate men. And I fully believe in that philosophy. So what we do in the CARE program, short for Campus Acquaintance Rape Education, is we train both males and females to do peer facilitation of workshops. We have actually quite an array of workshops now, but basically a three-prong workshop series where we educate men alone, women alone, and then mixed gender. And we have both male and female facilitators. When we do a male-only workshop, it's males who facilitate, students who are just like the males that they're talking to. Mm-hmm. We have men who are in fraternities, we have men who are African American, so on and so forth. We have a diverse group of men who are involved in this project. And I think that that's going to be a real turning point.
What sort of things do you teach in these seminars exactly?
In the workshops themselves, first of all, we talk about rights and responsibilities. Again, I agree wholeheartedly with what Bob said. I guess I'm a little bit tired of defining what is criminal behavior in this area. I think it's time we start talking about what's appropriate, what's healthy, and what's ethical.
Yeah, it's hard to teach, though, ethics when you're talking about people want to know just what is the law.
And that's why we don't talk about the law. What we talk about are people's rights, and we talk to women about signs of sexual aggression in men. We talk about them with regarding the latest research and what we know about rape avoidance, what works and what doesn't work.
But what about women's rights? I mean, I notice among even my friends, some women just don't know what their rights are. They think because you're out on a date with a guy, maybe he's bought you an expensive dinner, and you're kissing him and it's getting heavy, that you have to go through with it. Mm-hmm. And I think it'd be important, I mean, maybe you hear more about this in cases where women even feel guilty. Maybe they wouldn't want to take someone to the police because they feel it's partly their fault.
I think it goes back to communication. I think if we're going to go out on dates, we need to communicate with our date. We need to tell our date what our expectation of the dates is, what I'm willing to give, what I want from the date, and I think that might help alleviate some of these
And
problems.
the other party has to be willing to hear that.
Right.
Right.
And, that's one of the messages like groups like Men Against Sexual Violence spreads, is that, when someone says no,
No means no, just like those McKinley buttons, huh?
yeah, my favorite quote around that is by Angela Davis. And Angela Davis says, "No means no. And if it doesn't, she'll call you in the morning." And I think that's great, and it's like, just take it at that, period. You don't need to pressure, you don't need to bring out your tools to turn that no into a yes.
Right.
Just let it go,
You say you have a diverse sort of group of people that attend your workshops, but
No, I was talking about the facilitators.
oh, the facilitators
Yes.
are diverse.
Yes.
But would you like to see a mandatory course on this campus that deals with sexual ethics? And
I think that is the way to go. What I have seen in the short time that I've been involved with this program since January is that the training course that we offer, which we usually have 15 or 20 students in, and they become the facilitators of the workshops. The training takes place, probably we have about 30 hours with them. It's a regular classroom kind of situation. The change in attitude over the course of the semester is dramatic, absolutely dramatic. I was telling Bob about a young man who's in a fraternity that took this training course this semester, and he had been going to O'Malley's for quite a while, and he'd seen that sign about this contest, or whatever you want to call it, many, many, many times, and hadn't even thought about it. After he took this course, he went in there, saw that sign, and felt so outraged. It changes the way people think. It changes the way people behave. And I think that that's what needs to be done. In a 2-hour workshop, we can plant little seeds, but we can't turn around attitudes that we are so socialized, so strongly.
It becomes normal, not even to
Yes.
think, oh my God, this might be really degrading to some woman for a pitcher of beer of all things. One thing that's always concerned me, and it's just personal experience, going to the library late at night or coming back, you hear people yell things out of a car, watch out, you'll get raped, whatnot. And I think what bothers me is the threat of rape can keep women indoors, can really constrain them. And sometimes I feel like telling, my friends, don't worry, be, prepared, know your self-defense. But, don't you think that's a problem? It's just the threat of rape, not even people that are victims. But that's almost as controlling.
But what we're talking about on this campus, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a phenomenon of acquaintance rape. We don't really have that much, you're thinking of, in the big city, someone comes up to you with a gun. That's not the problem on this campus, is it? Is it? But
that fear
right.
is
still
there. It is.
Yeah.
It really is. I talk to women all the time, and not necessarily rape survivors, but just women, students, who think, I can't go to the
locking
library
alone at
tonight.
night.
Yeah. Or I think about women who do work on third shifts.
Sure.
And you'll remember this, Vicki, what was it, 3-4 years ago when we had the serial rapist? And true, that's not the biggest problem that we're talking about, but nurses, waitresses, people who worked late at night and had to leave their cars at 1, 2 in the morning and walk home. I don't know if you're familiar with the parking in Urbana.
It's not well lit at all.
It's not well lit, and you also cannot park in certain places overnight. So if you live in that area where you're not allowed to, you have to walk blocks. And women were terrified. So I agree with what both of you are saying. I think there's just this cloud because it is so frequent. And
well, how would you describe the problem on this campus that you're working against?
Well, I would describe it using a survey that Mary Ellen O'Shaughnessy did 2 years ago, was published last year, and where she found that 1 in 6 college women on this campus reported having been raped. 1 in 6.
Or
Raped.
sexually assaulted. Raped.
Which is sexual assault legally. That's
so it
those are the
have to
same
involve-
things.
Okay.
Okay, and that these were women who 80 to 90% of them was an acquaintance.
Right. Can you define rape for us here, since we're claiming that one,
Sexual assault is a legal term.
Right.
It means, and Vickie could do a better job of
No,
this.
go ahead.
It means penetration.
So 1 in
Forced
6
intercourse.
women were subject to forced intercourse.
And there was a number of other statistics, I think, with that, like just pressured, like sexual intercourse and a couple of other things.
Yeah, the 1 in 6 was actually forced intercourse. If you look at some of those other degrees of sexual victimization, the numbers were higher.
Yeah. Now, your office, Mary Ellen O'Shaughnessy, did get some heat, though, for publishing those statistics as being not scientific enough, I believe, and a number of other things. I mean, do you think that's kind of indicative of how people perceive, the problem of sexual assault, or how the university, supports or receives information like that? I mean, did you think that was kind of a built-in kind of reaction against those very powerful statistics?
Well, I think that would happen a lot with respect to research or, doing surveys or whatever on this kind of topic, because just like I think the legal system is, sometimes the research and scientific system is structured in a similar way where it's real male-dominated in a certain way, in a certain biased perspective, kind of setting itself up against this different types of research.
Sure.
And it scares us.
The numbers scare us.
Would you encourage women to prosecute them if the problem is so great? I mean, there are obviously a lot of women who aren't coming forward.
I would like to.
Yeah.
Oh.
Have we had any prosecutions on this campus?
We have had cases where there's sexual assault survivors have come forward and said, I will cooperate, I will make an official police report, and the case is...
What sort of penalties are there for, like, college students who rape other college students? The college atmosphere seems to make it seem a little less than what might happen in the city, but what are the consequences?
It all depends on what the state's attorney's office decides to do. The victim is given choices on what she wants to do. That when we get called out on a sexual assault, we give the victims options, because if she's been sexually assaulted, her options have been taken away. So the options are up to her. She can talk with us and we can make an official police report. She can talk to us, and if she doesn't want it to go through the state's attorney's office for criminal prosecution, it can go through student discipline through the university. And most of the time, the victims will opt for that because
what sort of penalties would we be seeing there?
Through the student discipline, it could be anywhere from, depending on what the committee wants to do, a reprimand of record to being expelled from school. It just depends on what the committee...
No, I mean, there's so much trauma, though, associated with sexual assault. I was an editor at the DI for a year in the opinion section, and we got an anonymous letter from a woman that was gang raped, and we couldn't do anything about it because we need names in order to publish the letter, even if it's anonymous. And, I mean, the feeling that I got was just, it was so traumatic. It took everything this girl had to write this letter. And, I mean, how do you deal with the victims? How does that go?
It's a very helpless feeling to go out, to get called to the hospital, to have this person who has been sexually assaulted tell me that she doesn't want to do anything about it. I want to help this person. And, we try to at least, encourage this person to get counseling.
Sure.
But we can't force them to do anything.
Sure.
You want to help, and if the person will give me their name and their phone number, I will call them and say, I'm here, I haven't forgotten you. Do you want anything?
But it seems like it would be very difficult, actually. I mean, people are reluctant to, implicate, their friends, people that they may know, and, to get some nice college boy who's generally a good person, and to call them a criminal seems, almost criminal in itself. Just kind of as a final note, what options are there for people who have been sexually assaulted at the university? Where can they go, and what kind of resources are there for them?
One of the things that I always suggest, and like Vickie said, the hard thing is you don't want to push anybody because they've had their power stripped. Everything about them has been violated. But one of the things I always encourage is medical exam. So my first choice would be for someone to go to McKinley, or if McKinley is closed, to call the dial a nurse. And McKinley has a protocol for how to deal with sexual assaults, and they are terrific.
Good.
They have some just very well-trained, sensitive gynecological nurses, and their gynecological physicians are the best. I mean, they're really terrific. So for me, that would be what I would suggest to students. And once they're there, they'll get hooked into other things that they need. That team will make sure of it.
Just to document the
Do you
incident.
agree with that, Vicki?
Yes, I would. And everyone, I think, over the years has become very close and works very close together.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
You're all doing extremely important things, Bob, with your group and the women's programs and the police investigators. We thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Jane.
And that's See You There for this week. Next week we're going to have a special on legalization of drugs.
And we'll be at Hash Wednesday.
Yes.
So join us.
Thank you.